but don't you rush away. What a great place to rest your bones, and mighty fine for skipping stones. You feel fresh as a lemonade, sitting in the shade. Whether it's hot, whether it's cool, oh, what a spot for whistling like a fool. What a fine day to take a stroll and wander by the fishing hole. I can't think of a better way to pass the time of day. We'll have no need to call the roll when we get to the fishing hole. There'll be you, me, and old dog Trey to doodle time away. Man, it's so nice out here. I wouldn't care if I was fishing with a naked hook.
Well, hello, buddy. You might as well be fishing with a naked hook. No more fishing you caught.
Oh, you reckon you're ever gonna catch one?
Caught more than you have. No fishing rascal.
I ain't gonna have to take your fish off for you, am I, today, you know?
That's the only way you're gonna get fish smell on your hand.
Pass me one of them cold ones, would you? Hanging around, taking our ease, watching that hound, scratching at his fleas. If we don't hook a perch or bass, we'll cool our toes in dewy grass, or else pull up a weed to chaw and maybe sit and jaw. Come on, take down your fishing pole and meet me at the fishing hole. I can't think of a better way to pass the time of day.
Oh, man, I about had enough of this. Show, I believe they own the fish right there. I done had enough of this, G. Let's go.
Come on, take down your fishing pole and meet me at the fishing hole.
Good morning, everybody. This is Brian. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. If everyone could make sure their mics are off or muted and their video cameras are off, we're going to have a few people with us, so we're going to try to save on bandwidth as it's going on. With us today is also Catherine Fox. She's also the superintendent here. And we'll get rolling in a couple minutes. Morning, Joey. Thanks for joining us today. If you could hide your screen or stop sharing video, I should say. We're going to try to save on bandwidth while everyone's joining today. Awesome, thank you. All right, so I have 8 o'clock, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome. We're the Fishing Sports Contest at 4-H University. I am Brian Gotro. I am one of the superintendents, along with Catherine Fox, who is also on this call. We hope everyone is staying safe and healthy during this time. You know, you have a lot of questions about how this contest has been modified for the virtual format, so we hope to go over that with you. If at any point you have any questions, please type them into the chat box, and we'll make sure to answer those as quickly as possible. And of course, we'll at the end also have time to answer questions as well. So, if I can advance my slide. All right, so our agenda. Is that slide advancing for everyone where y'all can see the agenda slide now?
We can see it, Brian.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to go over the contest rules and scoring first. We'll talk about the study guides, and lastly, we'll go over the individual contest components. The biggest change probably for most folks is the virtual fishing tournament as opposed to in person, but also the performance challenges test and the scenario. While they will be done virtually, those formats are largely unchanged. All right, so the contest rules. Contestants can compete individually or in teams as well. So a parish can send an individual or a team. Teams are up to 3 people. Parishes can send up to 2 entries. So if you didn't have enough to make 2 teams, you could send a team and an individual. Internet access is required since we'll be doing this virtually. Also, for the fishing tournament portion, you're going to need to have your own fishing pole and tackle. Also, to complete the fishing tournament portion, you're going to need a mobile phone with a good camera or a digital camera. You're also going to need a ruler and tape measure for that. The breakdown of the score. So if you compete in a group versus individual, largely what we do is we just multiply the score times 3, except for the scenario portion. But basically, you can see here your performance challenges are worth 288 points. The test is worth 300. The scenario is worth 100, and the virtual fishing tournament is worth 300, for a total group score of 988. Individuals, you can earn up to 96 points on the performance challenges, and 100 points on each other category in there. Study guides. There are a couple important study guides for you guys to find. One is the one that we put out, where we basically list what you need to know and the resources that you can find that information at. So that's our 2020 Fishing Sports Study Guide. That includes your fish ID list, so all the fish you need to be aware of how to ID, as well as where they're found, saltwater, freshwater. And we are aware that, some fish are, can vary between fresh and brackish water, but Wildlife and Fishery has official determinations for what those fish are, and we use those determinations. So you want to pay attention to where they're at on that saltwater, freshwater column. We'll also include a list of gear that you'll need to know, and knots that you need to know. The knots also include the usages of those knots that you'll need as well. You can find these materials located in the class materials folder in the 4-H University Fishing Sports Microsoft Teams site as well. And I believe we'll have them also placed into the chat as well today, these materials. One of the things that we reference in our study guide are the 2020 Wildlife and Fisheries recreational fishing regulations. This is a really important guide for you to use because it has fish ID photos, and we rely on these fish ID photos for your fish ID photos in the testing portion. So please make sure you're familiar with these photos. Also, Wildlife and Fisheries, their recreational fishing guide contains the official names of the fish that are accepted in the quizzes. It also contains some additional information that you're going to need. However, not everything in the study guide is pertinent. For instance, specific wildlife management area regulations aren't needed, for example, but our study guide tells you what you can omit from there. The Wildlife and Fisheries recreational fishing regulations are available online, and if they ever open up their offices again, you can pick up a paper copy from their offices, but otherwise they have electronic copies available online. We also reference the Future Fishermen Foundation's Sport Fishing Aquatic Resources Handbook. This handbook, a lot of agents have received this book if they participated in the Wildlife and Fisheries volunteer instructor program, fishing program, the VIP program. This is the same book that's been used for many years in this program. We have been able to convert this into a PDF this year, and so you can also access that electronically as well. Again, that is located in the class materials folder.
What's the problem?
In the fishing
I'm
sport.
muted. I don't know how. I don't know why.
Right. And if you're just joining us, thank you. We're glad to have you. But if you could make sure your mics are muted and you're not sharing screens, that'll save on bandwidth for all of us. All right, so again, locations for the fishing sports books, electronically in the fishing sports 4-H University's team. It is also for 4-H agents and the university trainings on teams. And we'll see, it's kind of large. I don't know if it'll fit in the chat. Maybe Catherine, you can see if it'll fit as a link into the chat. And we'll try to put it there as well. Any questions on the study guides, folks? All right, so let's talk about the contest components then. The first component, and probably I think the one that's had the biggest change, is the virtual fishing tournament. So let's go over the rules, and then again, if we have any questions, please just type them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. So the virtual tournament takes place over a 1-week period before 4-H University. This takes place on June 14th, 20th. It starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. Those are the fishing hours of each day. So on the last day, it'll end at 6 p.m. on June 20th. To participate in the virtual fishing tournament, what you will do is you'll sign up in advance and select one day of the week that you as a contestant will fish. And that'll basically be a quiz that you fill out, and the quiz will have 7 choices, and you just select the date that works best for you, or the weather seems good, or whatever works best for you. And there is a Saturday and a Sunday in that time frame, so there are weekend times available. After you fill that out, either Catherine or myself, or both of us, about an hour before your fishing time starts, will send you a participation or contestant code via email and text. That participation code is super important. You need to write that down on a index card or a piece of paper somewhere. That is what you're going to place next to all of your fish, so that we know these are your fish and this is your time. Along with the participation code, though, you also need to indicate what water body you're fishing and the date that you're fishing as well, just so it's all on the card in one place next to your fish. Are there any questions about how to select your date or for the fishing tournament?
When will they begin signing up for their date?
Whenever they are entered into the system, registered into the 4-H system, we should have the sign up available for them.
On the registration page, or?
It'll be in the team site as an assignment. All right, so
are they going to get instructions on how to get to that though when you send it to them, or that's what's going to be covered with them June 5th?
Yeah, they will receive instructions on that. Not today, I'm sorry, but yes, they will receive further instructions on how to get there.
How to navigate and find it. Okay.
Exactly. So we do have a couple questions in the box. One is, what if the date selected ends up storming and they cannot fish? You know, guys, we're learning as we go along, so we'll be flexible. If they need to switch dates, I don't think that's a problem. You know, just indicate the morning of, hey, this date didn't work out, and it's a new date, and we'll try to have that communication streamline through Teams, and if not, we'll just revert back to good old emails. And then another question I have in the chat is, can it be a private pond or does it need to be a public body of water? It can be either. It can be either a public body or a private body. The only restriction that we have on what type of water body it is, and I'll go over this in a little bit, is that it has to be considered freshwater. And like I said, I'll go over those restrictions in a minute. So on the fishing date, how are they collecting points or getting scored for their fish? Anytime they catch an eligible fish, and we'll define what eligible here is in a minute, they should take a photo of it next to a ruler or measuring tape and that index card with the contest code, the date, and their water body on it. So that photo has three components: the measuring tape, the fish lined up against it, and that index card. That makes that completes an eligible photo. After they are done fishing for the day, and again, they can fish until 6 p.m., they would upload those photos, again, via Teams on that assignment. They will upload those photos. Now, all the photos need to be uploaded by 10 p.m. on that day. So if they know that internet access is a challenge, they need to kind of consider when they'll end their fishing time in order to get everything uploaded in a timely fashion for that day. This is an example of maybe what it would look like. You got your fish, you got that fish next to a measuring stick, and you have that index card showing your contestant code, the body of water, and the date. Restrictions. So this will answer one of the questions we have in the chat right now about going to multiple lakes or ponds on their date. They can go to more than one location. We just ask again that each location gets a unique card so we know which bodies of water they were at. Going along with that, again, it's freshwater bodies. Salt and brackish water bodies are not permitted, and it's really not in their advantage to be in there anyway because of the eligible fish requirements. So eligible fish, only freshwater species that are listed in Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries recreational fishing regulations, state creel and size limits will be accepted. So that means it has to be recognized as a freshwater fish by Wildlife and Fisheries, and it has to be included in the state creel and size limits. So we're not accepting all species of freshwater fish, only those that are located in Wildlife and Fisheries state creel and size limits. There is one additional restriction on an eligible fish, and that fish must be 5 inches or greater in length. If it is a fish that is undersized according to regulations for possession, that is fine, as long as you take your photo and release that fish back into your body of water. That is fine to take a photo of a fish that is undersized for possession and regulations. All right, do we have any additional questions on the fishing tournament, signing up, or how they take pictures of fish so they have eligible fish or prove that they caught them? All right, we'll move on, and if you think of any later, we'll be happy to ask them. There are a couple more restrictions. One is that all fishing must be done from a shore or a pier. And really, we're just doing that just to kind of equalize that. We know some people have access to boats and some don't, and we'd like to kind of level the playing field a little bit. So boats and watercraft are not permitted. However, you can wade all day long. So if you have a pair of waders, or if you don't mind getting wet, go for it. We just ask that no fishing is done from a boat or watercraft. Also, while we realize that contestants may need transportation from point A to point B, that when it comes to the actual fishing, tying their knots, their lures, casting, and so on, that's all on them. So contestants need to use only their own knowledge and their own skills in catching fish. the scoring for the tournament. We have a bit of a sliding scale for scoring. So basically, we're looking at previous years and how they work with scoring, and essentially, if out of all of our contestants, if we have, typical years we have 75 contestants, if one of those contestants, if the highest amount of fish they catch is 25, so no one caught more than 25 fish, we're going to score each eligible fish as worth 4 points. So we can get as close up to that individual contestant 100-point max that we can. If we end up having a contestant that catches more than 25 eligible fish, up to 50, well, we'll score them 2 points apiece. Again, our point here with the sliding scale is just to get as close to that maximum score as possible. And if they catch more than 50 fish, which this would be the first year for that, we'll score those fish one point apiece. Again, there's a maximum of 100 points in this. So if you are lucky and skilled enough to catch more than 100 eligible fish for the day, it serves you no purpose to catch more than that, because we're scoring a maximum of 100 points. So our example below is if the maximum number of fish caught by a single contestant is 45, that sets the point value of each fish at 2 fish for all contestants. If that means if somebody caught less than 45, 12 fish, because the max at that point has been set to 2, they score a total of 24 for the tournament. Questions on points? Okay. So after the tournament, we have the performance challenges, and that takes place on 4HE week, Wednesday, June 24th, 1 to 4 p.m. So there is a window that they can do this. There are three components to this: the fish ID, the gear identification, and the fishing knots. Fish ID. Contestants are going to be asked to identify the fish by its common name. However, only common names in the wildlife fisheries list in the study guide are going to be accepted. Word banks will not be provided. So look at how they are spelled, look at the punctuations, everything like that on that list that's provided in the study guide, and that is your go-to right there for how to spell it. You're going to be asked also if that fish is a freshwater or saltwater species as well, so you do need to know where they live at. And I think we have a practice slide here in a second. So if in the chat box here, we need to know the name of this fish. And again, this would be the official name used by Wildlife and Fisheries. This fish goes by a few names depending on where you live in the state. Does anyone know what it is? All right, I've got one answer that says white crappie. Crappie. Yeah, so this in particular, good job guys, by the way. Sac-a-lait, that's what I grew up calling this was sac-a-lait. But the official name of this fish is the white crappie. Some people call this white perch, some people call it sac-a-lait. Some people generally call it crappie, but there are white crappie and black crappie. So it's important that you recognize that this fish is a white crappie and that is the official name that's taken for it. And as Brody answered, yes, this is a freshwater fish. Absolutely. Good job. All right. Any questions on fish ID or?
So they will be counted off for spelling, correct?
The system will not. We will have the system set to accept an answer that matches the spelling. If it doesn't match the spelling, it kicks it back as a wrong answer. Correct. And you know, I do not see a problem with Catherine. Do we?
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to ask. I'm sorry.
I have put in that it accepts a few different versions of the name, but they all have to be spelled correctly. It's just spacing, and if they include fish in the name, it will accept those variations, but it does need to be spelled correctly.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. So the variations is because Wildlife and Fisheries, they offer a couple of different names for some species, correct?
Yeah, there's a few variations, but as long as the actual spelling of the name matches, it should be accepted.
Okay. Capitalization isn't going to matter unless it's a proper name, and I don't think we have a fish with a proper name, proper noun name. So it'll accept both capitalized and not capitalized. All right. Any other questions on that one? Okay. So the next performance challenge is gear ID. So again, in your study guide, you have a list of gear items that you'll need to be familiar with. We'll be providing you with pictures of that gear, and you'll need to match the name of that gear. In the matching, a word bank will be provided. So in this case, in this photo, this is an example of maybe a photo and the choices that you would be given with this one. So again, in the chat box, what would you select for this answer? All right, a weighted hook. Excellent, Jimmy. Excellent, Brody. All right. All right, we have one more practice. What about, so y'all done the weighted hook there. What about this next picture here? We have either a map, a bob, or a fish scale, a personal flotation device, sharpening stone, or a poncho. Denise says PFD. Bo says PFD. Right on. Fishing knots. Contestants are also going to be asked to identify knots by the name, but they're also going to have to describe the appropriate uses of the knots or be aware of the appropriate uses of the knots. The knots that you need to know are all listed in that 2020 study guide that's been produced. A word bank of the knots will not be provided. So you'll need to memorize those knot names. But for the descriptions, you'll just need to be able to match the descriptions of the knot. So, for example, does anyone know the name of this knot? And if you're not maybe familiar with the name of the knot, does anyone know what it's used for? All right, Brody says arbor knot. Bo says A. I'm going to take that as it is used to tie the new line to the reel, and that is correct. Both of those are correct. So as you can imagine here, like on a question like this, you can earn partial credit. You might not know the name, but you might know the use of it, and so that would be a partial credit type situation here. But to get full credit, you'll need to know both the name and the function. All right, questions on fishing knot or any other of those performance challenge components? All right, we're going to move along. Also on the contest day will be a test. This test is going to ask each individual about the ethical, safety, rules, and environmental decisions that are relevant to fishermen. It'll largely be multiple choice, although there are true and false questions in there as well. It's really important, folks, that you read the relevant sections of the Wildlife and Fisheries Recreational Handbook, the Fisherman's Sport Fishing Guide that's been made into a PDF or that your agents have. It's really important that you become familiar with those books to do well on this test. So an example question might be when going on a fishing trip, it is always important to let someone know where you are going, the water course you plan to take, and when you plan to return. This is known as a, I should have put and too. So what is it? Does anyone know what it's called when we let somebody know where we're going when we're fishing, where we're going, when we plan to return? Really important for safety. All right. It's actually, yeah, there you go, Hilton. It's actually the float plan. So in this case, it is your float plan. And again, that is in the study course materials. Here's another question. This one's a true and false one. All persons born after January 1st, 1984 are required to complete an NSBLA approved boating education course to operate a motorboat over 10 horsepower. True or false? All right, Jimmy says true. I like it. All right, guys. So good job on that. The last component that you'll see on that Wednesday is a scenario. In the scenario, contestants are going to be asked to apply their knowledge to a real-life situation that deals with fishing. You are going to work together. If you're competing as a team, you work together to submit one answer. So you will be working in the same document, either synchronously or asynchronously, but you will be working to submit a single document to us. Your scenarios are going to be scored if they're based upon their logical and practical information that they contain within them. So it's kind of like a short answer. So, so example we have here is you are an avid fisherman and are proud, or women are proud to say you have fished on the waters of 4H Lake for over 10 years. One day out on the lake, you come across a group of new anglers who are fishing irresponsibly. You approach them to chat about fisheries management and they ask you to give them some tips on how they can help to protect and improve our waters and fish populations. So what guidance would you give them on how they can become responsible anglers? So what are some things that you would help to tell somebody that were fishing irresponsibly? What tips would you give them that would help make them into more ethical anglers, more responsible anglers?
Learn the Wildlife and Fisheries Fishery Guide for limits and populations, things like that, and understand and know what the limits were and maybe the size regulations on the waters that they're fishing.
Perfect. Absolutely. That's super critical, right? And that's not just responsible, that's legal, right? So knowing the size limits, the take limits, only keep fish at a legal size is in the chat box as well. So yeah, thanks Hilton. Thanks Gene. Those things. What about the environment beyond the fish itself? What responsibility do fishermen have for the environment? All right, excellent. Yeah, leave it cleaner than you found it. Awesome. So These would be the types of things that we'd be looking for. No polluting, great. These are the types of things that we'd be looking for if this were your scenario that you would speak with, knowing and obeying the laws, catch and release, not littering, these types of things. And, seeing how you communicated that in that response. Okay. We've kind of flown through the day real quick with the performance challenges and the test and the scenario. I'm going to back up a little bit real quick and ask if there are any questions about those components. Okay, I guess let's open it up to general questions then, because I think we've covered, we've covered the contest, the virtual tournament, and the online components. So I'd love to hear any questions that you guys have at this point.
They are to turn in a copy of their fishing license.
Do they need a copy of their fishing license? They are, they need to have a fishing license if they are over 16 and fishing, but I don't believe we are requiring that for this contest. I don't think that was in the instructions, but they do need to have one if it's a legal requirement. They should have one.
Okay, but they do not have to turn one into you.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I did want to mention with the scenario, even though it's like a short response, it doesn't need to be in paragraph form. You can do a bulleted list like there is in the example. It's whatever format the contestants want to do.
Thanks, Catherine. All right. The rules packet says the fishing license is due June 9th. Well, I apologize then that I didn't take another look at the packet real quick before making that statement. So so I guess we'll need to set up another submission. I guess, yeah, we'll need to set up another submission in Teams where they turn in that license.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Sorry to interrupt. But what we can go ahead and do just to keep things a little bit consistent with what's been out there already, you can go ahead and set that at June 12th with the rest of contest deliverables. That way to just keep things like a little bit more consistent across the board, just in case anyone may require a little bit of time or whatever. So that June 9th date won't hit them as hard. It'll give them like an extra 3 days.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. All right. I guess if there are no other questions, again, we look forward to you participating in the contest. Catherine and myself are available at any point for questions. We do intend on the team site for there to be some frequently asked questions available for you to review as you're getting prepared for the contest dates and the virtual fishing tournament. So you'll have some additional information out there. All right, yes, so how they register for the day they compete. So on the team site, there will be an assignment or quiz assignment that they will select which date they would like to fish. That registers them for that day. So that's all they have to do is just open that quiz assignment, answer, it'll be multiple choice, answer that one, and that'll register them for their date. Catherine and I take it from there, and we emailed them the registration code about an hour before 6 a.m. So around 5 a.m. or so, we'll be emailing them the registration code that they then will write down on the cards they use for their fish photos. Yeah, not a problem.
So will they be emailed the invitation or access to the teams to be able to go in and sign up?
I might ask Robert to hop in on real quick if we enter them ourselves, or
I mean, how do they get to that team's assignment? I guess I'm asking.
so once they get access to the team site, and again, I might ask Robert to hop on for that, but once they get access to the team site, it'll be basically in the assignments tab. There's a tab on top that says assignments that they'll be able to do that from.
Right. So
Yes.
they'll email that information, correct?
And Cassie's on. She's leading the team with that, so she can definitely speak to it.
Yeah, I can hop on for 1 second concerning the team site. So essentially, Miss Amanda, all of the youth will be onboarded after the registration deadline of June 3rd for 4-H University. We're going to get all of those youth onboarded into their teams. They're not going to have to go and search for that team. They're going to be added directly into that. Once that occurs, they'll have the option to peruse, but there is going to be a training for all youth on June 5th. Where we're going to walk through with them kind of a tour of teams, tell them where to find everything, get them familiar with it, answer any questions that they might have, so on and so forth. So we'll make sure that they're familiar with the system and where to find rules and assignment submissions and all that good stuff.
But they'll gain that information through an email, correct?
They will be receiving an email to initially onboard them into the team site. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So once they join the team site, kind of like we're doing this through Teams right now, they're going to be a part of a team, and that is where the information is going to be posted. So it's not necessarily coming to them separately through emails, through separate emails. They will receive an email to the email that they've provided in the system. That will help them set up a login for that team site, and then at that point, that team site is going to be where all of that information is going to be held, everything from study guides to assignments, everything like that.
Right. Okay, thanks. I thought that's how I understood it. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So again, thank y'all all so much. Thank you for bearing with us as we kind of learn and grow in this year. And we really are looking forward to having this contest and doing this virtually this year. And do not hesitate to reach out to either Catherine or myself throughout the process. Thank you. Thank you to Robert and Cassandra too very much for being on the call and answering some questions this morning. And thank you all for all you do.